All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, we are back again on the other side of the coin. And look who I have here. It's not every day that I get to bring a journalist, a Chelsea reporter in my streams, in my live streams. I'm so glad to have this particular person on, Adam Newson, who's the Chelsea reporter for Football London. And he writes up some amazing articles out there. Go out there and check all of that stuff out. It's actually in the descriptions right now. So, you'll see Adam's Twitter link there and all of the stuff for Football London right now in the description. But Adam, my man, how you doing?
I'm good. And thank you very much for that lovely introduction. That's very kind of you.
Thank you. First of all, shout out to the live chat as well for always supporting me. So thank you for joining, and thank you for all the people that will join throughout the stream, which down the track as well. So kudos to you guys for always turning up and giving me the support. Let's get straight into this, Adam. We've got a lot to talk about, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some interesting discussions. First of all, let's talk about the aftermath post that Chelsea versus Porto game. Obviously, we've gone through to the semi-finals. I just read the article that you guys posted off the back of that. I had no idea. Apparently, Chelsea, they've set a record. We are the only team to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League This is the 8th time. So that's a pretty big achievement from that aspect of things. But somewhere deep down for me, I just that loss doesn't sit right with me. I mean, I felt like we deserved a win. We were a far better team than them, considering they were behind and they needed to come out of the blocks and get those 2 goals. They had nothing. They simply had nothing. And obviously that wonder strike overhead, kick right at the end. How did you feel at the end of the match?
The fan in me was really pleased that Chelsea got through more than anything. I somewhat expected it not to be a brilliant game just because of what Porto do. But it was very much Chelsea doing a job last night. Yeah, it wasn't very pretty. Tuchel even accepted that after the match, saying, he appreciated that those watching on the TV wouldn't have probably enjoyed the game. But as far as, the Chelsea fan in me, great. Chelsea through to a semi-finals. And as you say, it's, Chelsea are now the most successful English team in terms of getting to the semi-finals, which, considering Chelsea didn't get into the Champions League until 1999, other teams definitely had a head start on them. So yeah, it's a sign that how Chelsea have really developed as a club, obviously, since Roman Abramovich came in, has had a massive impact on that. And I'm really excited now for the semi-finals. I think, that first decade under Roman, Chelsea fans probably we were a bit spoiled, basically, because we were getting to the latter stages of the Champions League pretty much every season. In more recent years, it hasn't really happened. So it's great that we're in the semi-finals. Who we get it will be determined tonight, but you don't really fear anybody as a Chelsea supporter at the moment, and I think that is it's a good place to be. Either one of Real Madrid or Liverpool are going to be hard, but you kind of feel that Chelsea could get past them, and then, as we saw in 2012, who knows what can happen in a final.
No, absolutely, you're right. I personally, I'm not fearful of anyone facing next up, whether it's Liverpool or Real Madrid. Liverpool, we've already played them. We know exactly what they're going to bring to the plate, so we know how to tackle that. We've beaten them. And then Real Madrid, more or less, we know. We see them week in, week out in the La Liga. We've seen them against Liverpool, how good they can be. I feel like we have a team to combat them as well. I'm not saying we're going to go out there and demolish them, but we have a team to combat them. So it's a very good point that you brought up as well, that, when Roman Abramovich era started, we were sort of expected to get to these sort of stages in this particular competition almost every season. But in recent times, it hasn't been that. It was 7 years later that we've made it to the semi-finals. So hopefully this kick-starts a new sort of era under Thomas Tuchel, where we get back into that whole groove of things and make it into the deeper stages of the Champions League. Let's talk a little bit about the whole kerfuffle that happened at the end. I just read the article, and it was something straight from you guys, actually. And it went something like, apparently Sérgio Conceição wanted to give him a fist punch or something like that, or fist, right at the end of the game instead of handshaking. And Thomas Tuchel, I think because of how ugly the game was, I think we endured something about 33 fouls. They've made it very difficult for us, and we'll get to that when we talk about Jorginho and Pulisic, especially Pulisic. He absolutely took a battering in that game. Do you feel like that might have had something to do with Thomas Tuchel being a bit upset at the end of the game that you guys didn't come to play a football game, you came to wrestle today?
Yeah, potentially. I think, and this is me trying to piece different sort of things together, because obviously we couldn't travel out to Spain. But from what I can tell is that it all sort of stemmed from when Chelsea kicked the ball out for when Thiago Silva went down, and then Porto didn't give it back, and then Tuchel really took issue with that, and I think there may have been a bit of underlying resentment about that at full time. Apparently, Tuchel said something along the lines of F off to Sérgio Conceição when he went to give him a little fist pump at the end, and then things escalated a little bit. Obviously, I think Conceição told Pepe. Pepe then went and got in the face of Thomas Tuchel. Almost inevitably, a few players then all sort of crowded round, and Antonio Rüdiger, as we probably have come to expect, got involved in a little bit of it. But credit to the likes of Oli Giroud and Edu Mendy and Thiago Silva. They were there sort of fairly quickly to calm it all down, because the last thing Chelsea needed at that point was to risk anyone getting a post-match red card that would rule them out the semi-final first leg. So yeah, it was something that just brewed for a few minutes, but was all calmed down thankfully. And it's one of those things which will probably be forgotten about in a couple of days. But it was just a weird sort of incident after a game in which, as you say, Porto weren't great. They came to spoil the match. I was really surprised at how Porto played, to be honest. Given they needed 2 goals, it wasn't until they made that sort of triple change quite late on that they sort of had any intent. And yeah, that was very strange considering they needed to score twice at the very least. So very strange game. Not a great game, but job done. Job done for Chelsea, and that's all they needed to do.
A couple of things I want to talk about here. We'll get to the whole Rudiger situation, but as you've touched on how it was strange the way Porto played that game, and I saw Simon Johnson, I think, tweeting something out. I'm pretty sure all Chelsea fans felt like this, saying that a team that is 2-0 behind to come out and play in that manner, it seemed like they wanted to stop us from playing our game as opposed to them playing their game to get the victory. Were you surprised as well to see they weren't throwing the kitchen sink at us? Or do you think it's just the way Thomas Tuchel set us up, which kind of eliminated their way of playing? But I kind of felt like they did not push hard enough. Is that how you felt as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of both in that. Tuchel has managed to make Chelsea very defensively solid, and Porto pressed really high for a lot of the game, but Chelsea did manage to escape that press quite a few times. But yeah, I mean, I did expect more from Porto. I did expect more just, attitude to try and get a goal, especially early on. It didn't happen. And Chelsea managed to keep them at arm's length for most of the game. Obviously, they did concede that excellent goal late on, but it was too late. So yeah, a very bizarre approach. And one thing that I tweeted this out during the game is that when Porto players, when a foul was given in favour of Porto, their players were staying down for a good 30 seconds, and I didn't really understand that because they needed to score, they needed to get the game moving, and every time they had a player go down, it sort of slowed down the game, and I had no idea what they were doing because that was just only helping Chelsea. So yeah, a very strange game all told, really.
Yeah, no, I couldn't understand as well when I was watching that. Why aren't you hurrying things up? Why aren't you really trying to, put the pressure on us? It almost felt like that worked in favor for us. It's like, okay, well, you want to slow things down? We kind of want to slow things down as well. So exactly. We're not the ones chasing the game. We're 2-0 up. So now that was strange. The other thing that I want to talk to you about was the whole Rudiger situation. Look, I know the fan base, when it comes to Rudiger, gets a bit split, in regards to all of that stuff that happened when Frank Lampard got sacked, the whole Matt Law's article that came out, and, all of these things about him being a bully and whatnot. And then obviously Tammy Abraham coming in and saying now that these are all not true. Some still think it is true. And then obviously recently the whole bust up situation. And I feel like, we're not the only club that have bust-ups. There's bust-ups happen in other clubs, and bust-ups happens between mates. Like I have bust-ups with my mates when we're playing a game of football or whatever it is. So it's very natural, right? But
yeah,
I personally feel, Adam, I love a character like that. To have someone who's a warrior, the beast, the hustler. The stuff that he did to Luis Suarez against Atletico Madrid, the stuff that he's done, this match against Porto, where there was all that issue with Pepe coming on, and he goes in and he tries to protect. If there's ever a brawl or if there's ever a fight, you can rely on Rudiger to be there and to support you. How important is it to have a player like that?
Yeah, it is important. And Thomas Tuchel obviously mentioned in his pre-match press conference that he said you wouldn't want to get in a fight with Tony Rüdiger. I think, I think having a character like that is important if it's all channeled in the right way, of course. And in matches, he really has stepped up and has been excellent under Tuchel. You can't argue with that at all. The incident with Kepa in training, where beginning of last week. I think you can only look at the comments that Tuchel made after that in his press conference, where he confirms it was serious in his own words. It wasn't something he could. I think he said something along the lines of, there are instances in training you can look away from and just let happen, but this wasn't one of them. He said that it was really important that Rudiger apologised to Kepa. So it's all kind of there in what Tuchel said. It is clearly something happened that shouldn't have happened. But the important thing is the players seemingly apologised to each other, and it's been, it's moved on. So it's done, it's dusted. Rudiger is a combustible character. He does have a bit of a streak in him, but as long as that's channeled in the right way, as you say, against Atletico, when he really handled Luis Suarez and didn't accept any of his nonsense, then that's great, and that's going to be, really important for Chelsea going forward.
100% agree. Just before we move into the whole Jorginho and Pulisic conversation, which is going to be another big topic to talk about, just from your perspective, Rudiger, there's lots of talks about him possibly leaving in this summer, and Chelsea's looking to offload him. Is he, let's just say for argument's sake, Thomas Tuchel continues with the three at the back, let's just say. Is he someone that you want to still keep in the club? That type of a character, looks a bit of a leader as well. I feel like some of the youngsters look up to him. I remember Callum Hudson-Odoi saying that he calls him as Uncle Rudiger. So is he a kind of character that you would want to keep, or you think, whatever it's happened this season, kudos to you, Rudiger. Next season, let's get a new batch of defenders?
I think Thomas Tuchel is probably going to want to keep him. I think the fact that he wanted him at PSG shows that he really does value him as a defender. I guess from Chelsea's perspective, and this is my opinion based on rather than facts, but I do think Chelsea might want to get a definitive decision from Rudiger about his contract before the European Championships, just because. The problem, if he doesn't sign a new deal before then, he'll obviously go away with Germany. He'll play in their tournament. If Germany get all the way, which isn't
quite possible,
it's possible, even though they're not playing brilliantly. Rudiger wouldn't necessarily return to Chelsea until shortly before August, and then you've only got a month of the transfer window left with a player who has less than a year on his contract, and at that point, all the sort of power is with Rudiger. And if he decides after that, I don't want to sign a new contract, Chelsea could be left in a tricky situation. Obviously, we saw with Thibaut Courtois what happened that summer, where he didn't sign a new deal and essentially pushed through a move to Real Madrid. And then Chelsea went out and panicked and signed Kepa for 70 million.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think Chelsea will want to be in that situation again where they're caught out. I mean, they do have a decision to make on what they want to do with Rudiger, because, I personally don't think they can leave it until late in the summer, just because it just puts the club at a massive disadvantage potentially in the transfer market.
No, honestly, that's a fantastic take. Us fans, generic fans, we don't think about that kind of implications and the complexity that comes with the transfer stuff. But this is a fantastic little insight that you've given, in the sense that, he only has a year left. If Chelsea need to do something, they got to do it in this particular window, or get him to sign that extension, which I think they want to. I think Chelsea, in recent times, there was rumours that they want him to get that extension done so they have enough time to do whatever they need to do. So one to look out for. Let's talk about Jorginho and Pulisic. I want to talk about Jorginho because Pulisic, there's a lot to say as well. But Jorginho, I saw your tweet and you said something along the lines that it's not a particular player that you fancied, but you truly, truly appreciated what he did against Porto. And I think most of the fan base, Adam, feels that way. Look, here's my honest opinion about Jorginho. I get so much flack about this in Twitter because Twitter's crazy. You know how it is. Adam. You know, random people don't even know who you are will come and judge you as a person and whatnot. My stance with Jorginho is that under Frank Lampard, with the lone DM and the attacking eights, he was never going to succeed. He was never going to succeed in that because he's not an attacking eight and he's not a lone DM. When you've got the attacking eights bombing up, he's not someone who's going to be able to, you know, have the legs to go laterally or the legs to go up and down box to box. That's just not him, right? And I said it during that period, Adam, that I don't want to see Jorginho play because he does not fit Frank Lampard's plan. And I wasn't saying that Jorginho is a bad player. I just simply said that I don't want him to play because it's making him look like he's a rubbish player when he's not, because it's not suited for him. In comes Thomas Tuchel, plays him the way Jorginho needs to be played. And oh my days, he's been so good under Thomas Tuchel. And I feel like the Porto game, he showed that combative nature as well. All of that things about Jorginho gets bodied, you know, all of that stuff, you know, went out of the way. He was tackling, intercepting. There were some stats. I think Statman Dave put out some stats that he was first in interception, first in tackles made, first in, you know, passes and a whole heap of other stuff. What do you think about his performance yesterday against Porto? I know you felt really, really happy about it, but, you know, do you have a newfound respect for this player?
Yes and no. I mean, I respect, and you know, this is genuinely true. I respect every Chelsea player because of you know, you don't get to play for Chelsea unless you're a good footballer. There's no ifs and buts about that. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I've not been Jorginho's biggest fan, and I do think there are weaknesses to his game that can be exposed, as you said. You know, in the wrong system, he can be ruthlessly exposed. And under Frank Lampard, it would often be one defensive midfielder and two centre backs against, you know, a counter attack, and you know, Jorginho doesn't have that mobility or turn of pace to really help in those situations, to be blunt. Whereas, you know, under Tuchel, in the system he's playing, Chelsea attack with 5 players and they defend with 5 players, and the defensive 5 players are usually the 3 centre backs and the 2 DMs, and that gives Jorginho a level of protection in counter attacking situations, but also means he isn't as caught out positionally. And yeah, a huge credit to him. Against Porto, I thought he was brilliant. And obviously Chelsea put themselves in a bit of a tough spot here going into the game they left Billy Gilmour at home, and then Mateo Kovacic got injured, and N'Golo Kante wasn't 100% fit. You know, Tuchel wasn't sure he was going to see out the game.
By the way, Kante was amazing as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much what you expect of him. Even when he's not fit, he's still one of the best midfielders in the world. But I really thought Jorginho needed to step up last night, given the circumstances. And yeah, huge credit to him because he did. I thought he set the tone early. He was getting around the Porto players when Chelsea didn't have the ball. And he's completely been revitalised by Tuchel. I mean, you know, he's had one you know, dreadful game, West Brom. You know, that was a tough game for everyone. But other than that, he has been really good. And I think he's probably playing the best football we've seen of him at Chelsea. Which is interesting considering obviously Maurizio Sarri saw him as so crucial, but I do think he's playing better now than he was in Sarri's season, to be honest.
Now, for sure. And it's a nice segue how you brought up Maurizio Sarri. A couple of things I want to say just before getting into that conversation. Obviously, some crazy rumors happening in the Spurs corner with Maurizio Sarri that I want to get your thoughts on. But first of all, lots of talk always. As soon as Jorginho does well, somewhere along the way, his agent comes out of nowhere and starts talking about rumors of him going back to Napoli and this and that and whatnot. And more often than not, Jorginho pretty much, you know, puts an end to it by saying, "Look, I've got I've still got a couple of years left in Chelsea. I enjoy being at Chelsea. I love playing for Chelsea. I've got no, concerns about moving anywhere at the moment. Yeah, do I want to go back to Napoli one day? Maybe I do. I don't know. There's a lot of talk, obviously, this summer that Tuchel may not continue with the three at the back, and then it sort of poses a bit of an issue once again. What do you do with Jorginho? Do you still go with the double sixes? Maybe then he can still survive. But what's your take on Jorginho long term? If we are to look to go for title challenges next season, which we really should be, and I think Thomas Tuchel probably wants that, and Roman Abramovich wants that. Do you feel like he's the kind of DM that can push us to get to the title challenges in all fronts, or do you feel we probably need someone to complement the likes of Kante or Kovacic?
That's a very good question. And so just to touch on the Sarri stuff, my colleague Alistair Gold, who is got very good links at Tottenham, has said that's not happening. So you could probably quash that one.
Go on.
But yeah, in terms of Jorginho's future, I think, as you say, it kind of depends on what Tuchel wants to do with this team and where he wants to take it. If he's happy to stick with the sort of 3-4-1-2-1, then there is a very good role for Jorginho in that team. If he wants to go to a 4-3-3 or something akin to that, then maybe Chelsea do have a decision to make this summer. So I do think it will be down to what Tuchel wants to do. As we said, Jorginho has a skill set. There are certain systems where that skill set is brought out the best of him, and there are certain systems that he can struggle. And he has a couple of years left on his contract. He's 29. He has obviously said he would like to maybe go back to Napoli. His agent is constantly saying things, which personally I think his agent should just pause it until the end of the season, at least, just because of what Chelsea have to play for. But I appreciate he's doing his job at the end of the day, trying to get interest in his client. So yeah, I think it'll probably depend on what Tuchel wants to do with this team next season. And once Chelsea know that, and once Jorginho knows that, I guess they can maybe come to a decision that benefits him. But my personal opinion is Chelsea probably do need another DM, a younger, more mobile DM, which isn't a dig at Jorginho, but N'Golo Kante's 30 now, Jorginho's 29. Obviously, I'm a huge Billy Gilmour fan. I think he does have a future at Chelsea, but maybe we do need another physical sort of DM. And obviously, Declan Rice has been linked for quite a long time now, and I think Declan Rice would be genuinely an excellent addition for Chelsea. Whether or not that happens, we'll see, because I think he would cost an absolute fortune.
Couple of things before we touch on the whole Declan Rice and Billy Gilmour, which is an interesting sort of side note to this whole situation. Just on that Jorginho thing, I recently saw another YouTube content maker, Matisse. He puts out amazing content, and he had Pat Navin come to his show in his channel, and he also had Gabriel Marcotti come to his channel. Obviously, Gabriel Marcotti being Italian, obviously he's always going to favour Jorginho, but I love the way they both spoke about him, especially Pat Navin, because he said that he's seen this player many a times in the training ground, and the Chelsea hierarchy and the backroom staff, they think highly about Jorginho, the way he passes, his vision. And also Frank has said many a times as well during his tenure that he's not just a leader on the ground, which obviously is the vice captain. I'm not sure if he's still the vice captain. I think he still is the vice captain of Chelsea Football Club. But he's a leader in the training ground as well. So a couple of things that I just want to quickly ask you about this particular player. First of all, I mean, was the rumours true that Arsenal were looking to get this player beginning of this season? And also, Pat Navin was saying that someone like Pep Guardiola was all over this player. He wanted Jorginho badly. So why is it that certain parts of the fan base still finds it very difficult? Because, as you said, Declan Rice is the figurehead that almost, you can say, 99% of the Chelsea fan base wants someone like that. Why is it that someone like Jorginho doesn't always seem to get that appreciation that Declan Rice kind of gets, being a West Ham player? He's not even a Chelsea player yet.
I think there may be some sort of residual sort of frustration with Jorginho from that first season under Sarri, where no matter how he played, no matter what he did, he was going to start. And no Chelsea fan or no football fan really likes to think that a player is favoured by a head coach. I mean, you just look at the grief that Mason Mount had got under Frank Lampard. So I think it's maybe a little bit left over from that. You know, he has had some poor games. There's no doubt about that. But you know, whether the Arsenal stuff, I wasn't actually on the Chelsea beat just at that point, so I can't confirm or deny whether that was legit. There were enough sources that came out to suggest that it was at the time. So, Pep Guardiola obviously did want to sign him for Manchester City, and I think that speaks to Jorginho's intelligence. And again, nobody can deny Jorginho is a very smart player, and that he has a very well-rounded understanding of passing and space and how to beat presses. We haven't always seen that at Chelsea. We are at the moment, and everything has become a lot clearer, and this is why Jorginho is wanted by Guardiola, like you said. I guess the Rice thing is just it would be a nice story because obviously he was released by Chelsea at 14. It would be a nice sort of way to complete the circle of him coming back, and he does probably have a bit more physicality. And the thing with Rice is Chelsea could spend 80-90 million pounds on Declan Rice, and you can't.
David Moyes thinks he's 100 plus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure Chelsea would do that for Declan Rice, but the thing with him is, you could probably drop him into this Chelsea team, and you're 90% certain that it's not going to be a transfer that backfires on you because he's proven in the Premier League. He has got a good body of work behind him at West Ham. He's obviously captain of West Ham too, so he's a leader as well. And I think Chelsea could spend that much money and drop him in and have no issues, which is not always the case with transfers, as we've seen.
No, for sure. And look, I mean, as you said, as we've already said, that depending on how Thomas Tuchel wants to set up next season and how he wants to mount a challenge for the title, if he wants to go back to the traditional four at the back, I don't know. I think he may need to look for a different style of DM. And, Declan Rice fits that particular bill, definitely. Before we talk about Pulisic, just quickly, the whole Billy Gilmour situation, not being in the squad, I initially thought, and I tweeted this out yesterday, Adam, saying that, look, it's not the end of the world. I mean, the kid's only 18 or 19? Not 19, even 19. And I'm like, okay, he's not part of the squad, but it's not the end of the world. He's got years ahead of him. But then I was sort of thinking, we got 3 goalkeepers and 3 left backs. Was it really necessary to have all of that when you could have someone like Billy Gilmour and just be part of the whole situation? I must admit, though, I think Billy Gilmour would not have survived what Porto were doing. And the way they were tackling, the way they were doing, I feel like that would have been a bit too much for a youngster to be thrown into the mix. But what do you think about the whole situation that's brewing around Billy Gilmour not going into Champions League and being part of the squad, when probably he could have been? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it probably stems from the fact that, at the end of January, Gilmour did have the chance to go out on loan. There were clubs interested, and from what I understand, he was open to it. It was Thomas Tuchel's decision to say, no, you're not going to go out on loan. And I think if a head coach makes that decision, for the player, it's one where you expect, at least I'm going to be involved then. I'm going to, even if I'm not playing every week, I'm going to get minutes here and there when I can. I guess the problem for Gilmour is he has only played in the FA Cup game so far. And he was left out of the travelling squad. Whether or not you needed to take 3 left backs if you're Thomas Tuchel, I personally would have left probably one of Emerson or Marcus Alonso at home, as harsh as that is. But they are senior players, and I think a lot of what Tuchel has done really well is manage those senior players in the squad and try to make sure everybody is kept happy. And the blunt reality is it's probably easier to not take a 19-year-old than it is to take a 27-year-old in these situations.
So true.
As far as I personally, I think Gilmour proved himself last season against Liverpool and Everton that you can put him in against very good opposition and he isn't going to struggle. He does have a skill set that enables him to beat presses like Porto were doing last night. So I'd maybe disagree with you a little bit on whether or not I think Billy could have.
I think the live chat agrees with you as well.
But I think he's got a huge future. What happens with him this summer will be interesting. I don't think Chelsea can afford to not have him developing either at the club or somewhere else. So I think if he isn't going to get 20, 25 games next season at Chelsea, then maybe there is a decision that has to be taken, because no Chelsea fan wants Billy Gilmour's development to suddenly stall, because he has shown that he's got a lot of what a big club wants in a young player. So yeah, I do think Chelsea will have a decision to make on him, because I personally think he could have played more than he has done under Tuchel. He could have definitely stepped in for certain games, or at least been on the bench and brought into the situation. And if he'd done that, then maybe Tuchel would have maybe felt more confident taking him for a big Champions League game. But, he hasn't had those opportunities. So you can understand in that sense why Tuchel didn't take him. But, my feeling is you could have dropped Billy into the starting 11 against West Brom, for instance. Obviously, that game went as it went. But, Gilmour has the capabilities to play well against West Brom. He has the capabilities to play well against, any of the other teams Chelsea have really played. Maybe not Atletico Madrid or one of those top teams, just, whether or not you have the confidence in him to do that. But, Chelsea have played Sheffield United and those kinds of teams on this run. And I think Gilmour could have probably featured in more games than he has.
Yeah, look, 100% agree the fact that he's a special talent. There's no doubting about that. And, the fact that he's not getting game time is obviously, you're right. Like, someone of his caliber of player needs to get those game times and develop, and that his development doesn't get stalled. I do appreciate the fact that Tuchel has made the decision to keep him. But I think now, as he's seen the squad go on, and I think it's a very important point that you've said, that Tuchel's taken this time for this till the end of the season, because there are some big, milestones to achieve. Obviously the Champions League, top 4, FA Cup, there's a silverware to be grabbed there. I think he's probably come to the realization, Adam, as what you said, that I need the senior players on my side first. I need them to be, not throwing hissy fits and whatnot. If it's a junior player, a younger player, I can deal with that. I can try and sort of manage it. But if it's a senior player, it's very difficult, because they can start talking to other senior players, and before you know, I've got a bad bunch of group going on. So maybe he's playing that political game, and I think there is politics involved in football. So he's probably doing that. But it's a good point that you said that next season someone like Billy Gilmour needs to get minutes, and if it's not at Chelsea, then he's got to get somewhere where he gets first team involvement and gets that development growth happening, because obviously just by sitting and just in the training ground and whatnot, it's not going to help out. So completely understand what you're saying. And the live chat was about to rip my head off when I said I don't think he would have fared against Porto. But let's now move on to Pulisic, Christian Pulisic. Adam, oh my God, I need to clear something up first. That first half, Adam, I think everyone expects Pulisic to dribble and drive and whatnot. And I might have been a bit harsh when I made my first half comments and my analysis, saying that Pulisic needs to really step up for the second half. And the reason why I said that, Adam, was I know Pulisic dribbles. I know he drives. He does that very well. It's that final third where I want him to be more clinical. Either it's a pass or he needs to finish. I wanted him to do that better. But obviously in the second half, he did a lot of other stuff so much better. The way he was helping out in defense, taking the ball and driving. And the amount of fouls he drew at him, oh my God. I hope he gets a day off today. Literally, Thomas Tuchel just tells him, just have a break, just chill out. What do you think about his performance against Porto?
Yeah, it was Eden Hazard-esque in the sense of how much he was getting fouled. I think all the players will have a day off today. They're still in Spain. They're heading back this.
They deserve it.
But yeah, it was. I think he drew 11 fouls in the game, which I saw on Twitter. And apologies, I can't remember who it was who tweeted, but it was the most. He was the most fouled player in a Champions League game since Leo Messi in 2011. Against Real Madrid. So that kind of highlights how much he was targeted by Porto. And you know what? I think Pulisic knew he was going to, after that first half especially, I think he knew he was going to take a lot of punishment in the game, which comes with the territory of being a dribbler. But yeah, he wasn't necessarily protected as well as he should have been by the referee, in my opinion. Were you
surprised there was no yellow card at all?
Yeah, especially in that first half. There were so many little fouls that the referee, a referee can make a statement quite early on that he's not going to allow sort of the creative players to be kicked out of a game or try to be kicked out of a game. And he did let probably too much go, in my opinion. But yeah, credit to Pulisic, because he was always ready to take the ball and run and get Chelsea up the pitch. And yeah, it comes with the territory. Like you say, he had a couple of chances on goal. There is an area that he can improve. We saw during Project Restart last season just how devastating he can be when he's hot. He is really hot. And in that sense, he maybe is a bit of a streaky player. He has got 4 goals in 5 at the moment for the USA and Chelsea. So, we saw last year when he gets on a run, he can be devastating. And hopefully he has timed it perfectly, because he wasn't having the greatest of seasons up until maybe just before the international break. He had a couple of injuries. His form hadn't been great. He wasn't starting under Thomas Tuchel, but credit to him, because he's kept working and he's now back in the starting 11 and having an impact. And it will be interesting to see if the same front 3 are kept for Manchester City at the weekend.
No, absolutely. Look, a couple of things I want to now talk about Pulisic is you did touch on the front 3, which we'll get to, because that's a very interesting sort of topic to talk about. But the battering he took, Adam, I mean, all the injury stuff that he's gone through this season, last season, every time he kept on falling over, I was like, oh my God, please, not an injury. First question that I want to ask you, Adam, is if this guy is fit, genuinely fit for an entire season, I personally think he's probably the one. I don't know. I can't really think of, maybe Kai Havertz, probably another one. I feel like Pulisic is one that can win a game single-handedly. We saw what he did in the Project Restart, where you're saying when he is hot, he's devastatingly hot. The stuff that he did against Liverpool when he came off the bench last season, I literally thought he was going to get us a draw, at a point where I was thinking, maybe he's going to win the game. I don't know. Do you feel that way as well with Pulisic, that this guy, if we can keep him fit just one season, maybe we win the league?
Oh, I don't know if I would say that. I do think he's got huge potential, and it's easy to forget maybe he is only 22. He is only going to get better, and hopefully in the coming years he sort of knows how to manage his body maybe a little bit more and protect himself. Eden Hazard was great at managing to take that punishment but protecting his body at the same time at Chelsea. Obviously, unfortunately, it's not really worked out for him in that respect at Real Madrid, But yeah, he's got huge potential. There are a few players in this squad who are so young still, and I think that's the exciting thing for Chelsea fans at the moment is Mason Mount's 22, Pulisic is 22, Kai Havertz is 21, and these guys, that's the front 3 that's starting in a Champions League quarterfinal for Chelsea. They are only going to get better, and behind them, we still haven't seen Callum Hudson-Odoi. I don't think we've even seen a fraction of what Callum Hudson-Odoi can be for Chelsea at the moment. Like, if you watch the youth teams, a few years ago, he was so head and shoulders above everybody else. Opposition, Chelsea players, there's so much potential in Callum. Obviously, he had a nasty injury, and he's probably still coming back from that. 18 months, 2 years on, but yeah, it's an exciting time because Chelsea do have an abundance of young players, and they are only going to get better with experience and development time. So yeah, who knows? Maybe in a couple of years' time, we'll have 24-year-olds who've got the two seasons experience under the belt, 3 seasons that are really ready to challenge at the top. But who knows? Maybe next season, because Tuchel was already done so brilliantly, you wouldn't put it past him.
Absolutely. Yeah, the fitness is the biggest concern. As long as he can stay fit, I think sky's the limit. The other question that I want to ask you is, we've talked about this with other guests, or I've talked about this with other guests, Chelsea's best front 3, in your opinion. We've when we've talked about it with other guests, right, we came up with a conclusion that out of all the players that are available that can play in the front sort of area, I think Kai Havertz, Mount, and Pulisic provides the package, the combination of everything that Tuchel desires from the front 3. You got Pulisic, who's direct, his dribbling is amazing, his first touch and controls a lot better than Timo Werner. He gets into the goals a lot more. He senses goals as well, Pulisic. He gets into the far post when crosses are coming in to tap them in. Kai Havertz, he has the ability to drop deep in midfield, play that false nine role. He's got the passing ability, the vision, and he's very much involved with goals and assists as well. And Mason Mount, I mean, what can you say about this player? He's been so amazing. Chelsea's player of the season. He's getting better and better every season, getting into the goals now under Thomas Tuchel. And he's becoming very much that combative midfielder as well. From your perspective, with all the other players that we have, Ziyech, Timo Werner, Giroud, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham, do you feel like the current front three is probably, in most scenarios, the best front three? Obviously, you change here and there.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think, Mason Mount starts no matter what. As you say, in my opinion, he's Chelsea's player of the season. He, Mason didn't necessarily have his best game last night, but he brings so much of what Tuchel wants in those attacking roles in terms of not just on the ball, but his pressing and everything is second to none. Pulisic on form, I think, Pulisic starts ahead of Werner at the moment, hands down. What Chelsea do with Timo Werner in the next sort of year is going to be very interesting, because I do think Thomas Tuchel isn't going to give up on him. I think he is going to try and keep getting him back to the level he was at RB Leipzig. Havertz is a tricky one, because he's had a couple of good games recently, but he struggled in the first leg against Porto. He wasn't brilliant last night as well. Not saying that's not a huge criticism of him. It wasn't a great game, all told, but he does have such a nice skill set, and as a false nine, he probably does link the play better than any other striker. Oli Giroud is great at link play, but he has to do it in and around the box, really, because he doesn't have the physicality or mobility, maybe, at 34. I don't know about Tammy Abraham at this point. I like Tammy Abraham. I'm unashamedly a Tammy Abraham fan. I've said, I always still feel people look at what Tammy can't do rather than what he can. He is Chelsea's top goal scorer still, even though he's barely played for about 3 months. I think Tammy has a lot to offer. Clearly, Thomas Tuchel has a different opinion to me, and his is far more important, given he's the head coach. So I do think going forward in those big games, we are going to see, unless Timo Werner suddenly rediscovers his top form, I do think we will see Pulisic, Havertz and Mount. And as you say, there are three that probably complement each other better than anyone else. Yeah,
like as one of my guests, Ryan, shout out to Ryan. He does a whole heap of all of these analysis and threads and whatnot. He said it the best. He said that those front three, they give a holistic package. Like they bring the whole team together. It's not about the individual talents that they have, which is very important, obviously, but it's what they do as a team together is what I think Thomas Tuchel really enjoys from that front three. Just quickly, before we go into, whether it's Real Madrid or Liverpool, and get your opinion on that before we move into Man City, just quickly, the whole Tammy Abraham debate has been huge in my channel, right? Look, I'm one of those fans that I like Tammy Abraham. I really do. But the thing is, I also understand where the club stands in the sense of what Roman wants to do. He really wants to challenge for titles. He really wants to win. He wants to win yesterday. Forget about today. He wants to win yesterday, right? So in that essence, then you get a whole thing about Haaland and Lukaku links, and now Aguero links out of nowhere as well. It just makes me feel like Chelsea are not really believing in Tammy in that sense that you're going to win us all of this stuff next season or years to come. Now, my perspective, Adam, is that, look, had Chelsea been a patient club, I have no issues with Tammy being there and growing and eventually maybe becoming that striker that we all believe he can be, right? But from your perspective, Adam, do you feel like it is coming to an end for Tammy? Or maybe, because I think I read somewhere that Chelsea has a contract for him. It's just he doesn't feel like he can be Chelsea's number one with that contract. It's more of a contract that, be a squad player, but we're going to get a big dog like Haaland to come in and do the job. I mean, what's your whole stance about Tammy Abraham?
I think if Chelsea sign a striker this summer, Tammy Abraham is perfectly within his rights to say, okay, cool, you do you. I'm going to go do me somewhere else, because I think Tammy Abraham showed enough last season to prove to people he can cut it in the Premier League. I mean, he scored 18 goals last season. None of those were penalties. He's got 12 goals this season. Again, none of them are penalties. He is a goal scorer. And I think a lot of Premier League clubs would look at him and go, you know what, he's 23. We know he can score goals in the Premier League. He's only going to get better. And that's, as you say, it's the kind of clash of ideologies that Chelsea seemingly were going under one way under Frank Lampard, which was, we're going to give these academy guys their head. We're going to give them time. We're going to let them do what they can do. And in, a couple of years, hopefully they'll have blossomed into, 60, 70 million pound players. A couple of them have, with, Mason Mount and Reece James are now sort of established in the team. With Tammy, I think in 3 years' time, I think he'll fill out a bit more as his body develops. I still don't think he's finished fully developing. I think he'll get bigger and stockier. And I think for a striker in his mold, that's going to be huge for him. And I think that'll be a potential game changer for him when that happens, because suddenly you're going to have a guy who's tall, strong, quick.
Like a Lukaku-esque kind of sort of style?
Similar. I don't think he's got the same sort of necessarily raw speed I think Lukaku maybe has or had, especially when he was younger. But I don't want to say Didier Drogba, because I don't think Tammy Abraham can be Didier Drogba. But what I will say is Didier Drogba arrived at Chelsea at 26 years old. And for those who remember, who are a bit older like me, Didier Drogba wasn't universally loved at Chelsea in his first couple of seasons. There were people who used to complain about him diving, going on the floor too much. There were people who claimed that he missed chances, had a poor first touch. And this is one of Chelsea's greatest ever players. And I think it's easy to forget that Drogba wasn't maybe the polished, finished article until he was 28. And Tammy isn't a hugely dissimilar striker in the sense of what he does. So I think if Chelsea want to sign Haaland, cool. He's brilliant. He is a freak of nature. He's a guy that big shouldn't be able to run as fast as he can. So if Chelsea go get Haaland, cool, I get it. But at the same point, I think that, it means Tammy can realistically expect to ask to go and be allowed to go. And it wouldn't be a huge surprise in 3 years, 2-3 years, to see him at the top of a Premier League scoring charts for a team, because I think he has that ability. But as you say, Chelsea want to win now, and they tried to not win now under Frank Lampard. They were going to give him time. When things started to go wrong, they were like, "Oh no, actually no, we do want to keep winning now." So we'll get this. You can go, and we'll get this. We'll get Thomas Tuchel, and we'll maybe go get Erling Haaland, and we'll go back to what we know. So it's a case of ideologies, and as you say, Chelsea want to win now, and maybe Tammy Abraham is the casualty of that, sadly, because as I say, I do think he will prove himself a very, very good striker in the years ahead.
Knowing Chelsea, in a few years' time, wherever Tammy is, and he's banging goals, and he's become. We'll slap that 70 to 80 million to get him back now, and you can lead the line. I'm not going to put that away. And as fans, we are so shameless, Adam, that we love the silverware so much that if that ever comes down the track, that Tammy's banging goals somewhere else, and we want him back, we'd get him back, but get him back now. So, look.
My only concern with Haaland is where he sees Chelsea. Does he see Chelsea as the final destination for him? Does he see it as and that's my concern with Haaland. If you want to go with Haaland, he's gonna score you goals, but is he then going in 3 years' time? I want to go on to Real Madrid. I want to go on to Barcelona or Bayern Munich or whatever. And that's my only concern with Haaland is your Chelsea can spend a lot of money on him and get a couple of seasons, maybe 3 seasons before he then, or Mino Raiola and him decide that it's time to go for that next level. Obviously, we've seen what happened with Pogba every year. He's linked with Real Madrid or another club, Juventus.
And it's unsettling. It's unsettling for a team to have a player constantly rumoured.
So, that's, if Chelsea sacrifice Tammy, as you say, in 4 years, if Erling Haaland has decided, or Mino Raiola has decided it's time to move Erling Haaland on to somewhere else, you wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea then go, actually, maybe we should bring back Tammy Abraham.
I wouldn't put it past it, but it's a very good point. Honestly, Adam, I personally don't even think Haaland's coming to Chelsea. Like, I just feel like, as you said, Haaland doesn't see Chelsea as the final destination. No way he sees it. I think he's more keen to go to Manchester City. He's very keen to go there. He feels that under Pep Guardiola. They're constantly in and around the title challenges, and in Champions League, obviously they're there. And I feel like, Adam, how certain players, when they're linked to Chelsea, they show the signs that they want to join, and they either press that like button accidentally in social media, which starts the rumor mill and whatnot. I just don't see all of that with Haaland. I feel like he's not interested about Chelsea. Like, even if the money's great, which I'm pretty sure wherever he goes, there's some rumors that he could be the first player to earn $1 million a week. Like, that is insane. Something like that, $1 million. I'm not sure. I could be wrong with this particular thing.
That's the reports, is that Haaland, Raiola wants to get him £1 million a week, which I can't see any club doing. I couldn't see Chelsea doing, just because I think it would completely destroy the wage structure at the club. And this is a part of it. If Chelsea, I agree with you. I don't think, my heart and hearts, I don't think Chelsea will get Erling Haaland. Saying that, if Roman Abramovich wants something, really, really wants something,
he gets it.
He can get it, and he probably will get it. We saw with Eden Hazard, that was a signing that Roman apparently really pushed for. And Chelsea went and got him, despite him being linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Chelsea went and got him. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I don't think it will, and that's my opinion. But I think Chelsea have to be careful, because I don't think you can bring in someone on such huge money and then not have problems from those guys who are here. Say Chelsea win the Champions League, and then Chelsea go and sign Haaland, make him their top wage earner. Well, why isn't Mason Mount then going, well, actually, I've helped win you the Champions League. Why can't N'Golo Kante say, even though I don't think N'Golo Kante would, to be fair, but realistically, N'Golo Kante's, agent could go, well, you've just signed this guy, given him X amount of money. Kante's just helped you win the Champions League, so surely it's time you bump his wages. And I think it does create problems if you do that. So, we'll see what happens. And I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think Chelsea will get Haaland, but I wouldn't categorically rule it out.
No, for sure. Declare, thank you so much for the super chat. Is it just me, or are you guys getting sick of Haaland circus? I wouldn't say I'm getting sick of Haaland circus. I'm just at the stage where I think it's probably not happening. And as Adam said, look, Roman can go out there and pretty much get whoever he wants. But the whole wages thing, I mean, honestly, it will stuff up the wage structure, and everyone's going to start demanding $1 million a week. Because if Haaland's getting that, Mason, who's been a superb player for us, who's going to stop him to say that I need that level of money as well? So one to look out for. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, declared. Adam, let's now quickly talk about Liverpool or Real Madrid. What's your preference next up?
From purely football one, I would like to see Chelsea play Real Madrid. It's not happened very often. So in that respect, I think that would be quite an interesting tie. As we said right at the beginning of this, I do think Chelsea have enough to defeat this Real Madrid team. I don't think it's a vintage Real Madrid team. My only concern with Real Madrid, and this is just pure fan concern, is Eden Hazard's had such a bad time of it at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
If he gets fit and Chelsea are playing in the semi-finals against Real Madrid, I don't know why.
But masterclass.
Exactly. That's the only fear I've got, is that Eden Hazard suddenly arrives, proves himself to Real Madrid fans against Chelsea, and it would just be horrible. So maybe it would be better to get Liverpool just for that. From a personal point of view, I mean, I don't think we'll be able to get up to Spain for the game. So, if a Champions League semi-final is going to be played in the UK, I can at least go up to Anfield and watch the game, which I appreciate, not a lot of fans can. So I do appreciate how lucky I am to potentially be doing that. But yeah, I mean, I'd like Real Madrid just for the uniqueness of the game, even if it maybe does risk Eden having a masterclass against us.
No, for sure. I've also said that, Liverpool and Chelsea, we see it, season in, season out, Premier League, sometimes even in the FA Cup, League Cup. The whole thing about Real Madrid and Chelsea is just the whole European flavor. And I think Thomas Tuchel said the same thing as well. In the European stages, you want to play other teams from different leagues, and it just creates that atmosphere. And it just has such a royalty feeling, Chelsea, Real Madrid with all the Galacticos and whatnot. Obviously, they're not in that stage anymore, but the history, they won this particular competition so many times. And obviously Roman with all the madness that he's done with us. So it just has a very good vibe to it. But I'm not going to put Liverpool just out yet. I know they are capable of madness. Just quickly before we touch on the Man City game, Adam, do you think it's a foregone conclusion with Liverpool, or this is a game to watch out for tonight?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Liverpool. Even the Barcelona game a couple of years ago proved what they can do when they need to. Liverpool aren't at that stage in terms of their football at the moment, but yeah, I would never rule out Liverpool just because all it takes is maybe Salah to really, really turn up, or Mane to really discover his form, or something like that, and suddenly Liverpool could turn it around. They need 2 goals, which isn't inconceivable that they get. Whether or not Real Madrid, their sort of makeshift defense will keep Real Madrid out for 90 minutes. That's another debate, but I certainly don't think it's beyond Liverpool, and I'm going to be watching with keen interest to see what happens.
Absolutely. I'm in Sydney, so that game's actually tomorrow morning for me, which is crazy because it's tonight for you guys. So it's 5 a.m. I'm going to be up to watch that. It's going to be very, very interesting what transpires in that game. But yeah, want to look out for. Just quickly before we wrap things up, Adam, it's been a fantastic conversation, honestly. We've got almost 80 people watching us live right now. Please, first of all, smash the like button. Helps the channel out a lot. Helps the video heaps as well. And go out there and follow Adam right now. All of his socials are in the description right away. He's the Chelsea reporter for Football London. And as you can see, the man is full of knowledge, and it's such a pleasure to talk to. So go out there and follow him. Adam, Manchester City next up. They said when Tuchel came in, this is just the honeymoon period. And quickly people forgot about that. And then they said, well, how's he going to fare when he has the first loss? I think we've pretty much seen that as well. Yeah. But I personally think, Adam, this fixture against Manchester City, this is it. Because for me, there's 2 big teams in European football at the moment. I know PSG is very good, but I think PSG is predominantly good because of Neymar and Mbappe, what they do individually, fantastic. Obviously, Marquinhos is a great player. But when you think about a team, you cannot think about any other team besides Manchester City and Bayern Munich. I feel like those 2, when you come up against them, that's the biggest test of where you are. What's your feelings for this particular match coming up? Are you confident from a Chelsea perspective that Thomas Tuchel could do the number here?
Potentially. I agree with you. I think this will be definitely the hardest game that Chelsea are going to have to play under Tuchel. In terms of, Manchester City are going to test the defense and the structure, I think, more than anyone else have. We played Atletico Madrid, but you kind of know how Atletico Madrid are going to play. They're not going to be expansive and really attack you. The same with Porto. We obviously played Liverpool at the point where they were sort of seemingly disintegrating. They've recovered a little bit. And I mean, even the Manchester City game in the Premier League, which is in a few weeks away, I wasn't sure that was going to be overly challenging for Chelsea or a huge threat, because I think City will have won the title by that point. So I wasn't hugely concerned about that game because I think Chelsea would have had extra motivation. Whereas, Saturday is, one-off semi-final. You're going to probably see the best Manchester City, and it's whether or not Chelsea can restrict them. It'll be, there's no Mateo Kovacic by the sound of it. He picked up an injury ahead of yesterday's game, so Tuchel wasn't confident that he's going to play in that one. So you'll probably see Kante and Jorginho again in the midfield, and they're gonna have a huge job. I think Kante will have to be at his absolute best to in the half spaces to stop the likes of De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan from having.
Let's face it, last time they killed us, Adam.
Yeah.
In January, I wanted to shut my eyes down. That was they could have put past like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think easy to forget that Chelsea actually started that game all right as well. We were probably the better team for the first 10 minutes. But it is going to be the proper test of how well understood Tuchel's sort of structure is by these Chelsea players. And it will probably be, as this comment says, it will be interesting to see how much this informs Tuchel for the Champions League semi-finals, depending on who we get. If we get Real Madrid, then it could be a good way of a good starting point of going, right, well, this is what we can do against a top team and a top midfield. because obviously Real Madrid's midfield is still excellent. You know, Modric, Kroos, Casemiro bossed that first leg, and you know, City's midfield is essentially what will probably win them the game on Saturday. If De Bruyne, Gundogan, Fernandinho, if that access really steps up, it's going to be hard. Phil Foden, obviously further forward, you've got, you know, there's so many players, Sterling, you know, Gabriel Jesus, Sergio Aguero even. So, yeah, it is going to be a proper test for Chelsea. And if they can come through it, then suddenly this last sort of month of the season is getting very, very interesting, because an FA Cup final, Champions League semi-final, top four race, it's going to be a big end to the season for Chelsea, and potentially a fantastic one as well.
Now, for sure. I'm excited. I'm so excited for this upcoming match against Manchester City. I think it's going to be a blockbuster. And then City, they better be worried. It's not going to be the same, side that faced them back in January. It's going to be a far more combative, team that's going to come up against them. I feel like we can do the number here on them, Adam. I feel like we can catch them out. And City in recent times, they've lost against Man United. They've lost against Leeds, albeit they've rotated the players a lot, and Pep hasn't, kept a secret. He's said that we're playing every competition. We've got to keep rotating just to keep the players fresh. But it'll be interesting to see, because obviously he's going to have a strong squad against Dortmund tonight. So it'll be very interesting to see how he, manages to turn that around, because obviously they'll have a day less than us to recover. So that will be very, very interesting to see. Adam, thank you so much, honestly, for your time that you've given us. It's been a pleasure talking about all the stuff that's happened over the last 24 hours. Before we let you go, what are some of the things that are, that us as fans can expect from Football London and from yourself? Any articles, any hot takes? I don't know. This is the moment to tell us.
I mean, yeah, as I said, it is going to be a very exciting end to the season. We've got pretty much everything you'll need covered. We are obviously at the games, which is really, really huge for us personally, just to be there at the moment. We're obviously at the presses. We've got a lot of other things covered. I'm hoping to secure an interview with a former Chelsea youngster. I won't say who it is at the moment, but hopefully, because I did a really, really big one with Josh McEachran a month or so ago, talking about his time at Chelsea, which is great. And it's just do a Google search and it'll come up. But yeah, I'm hoping to do another one with another former younger player. So yeah, we'll have everything covered. And as I say, if you do read it, it's always very much appreciated. I very much appreciate anyone who reads anything I write, because obviously at the end of the day, I do this because I'm a Chelsea fan. I like writing about my club, and it's great to be able to interact with other fans and give my thoughts and listen to what other people have to say. My word isn't the gospel. I appreciate that, so I'm always happy to interact with people and see what they say.
100%, man. You're a humble person, and that's what I like the most as well. As I said, 80 people logged on right now. Do me a favor, even if you don't want to hit the like button, go out there and follow Adam. All of his articles, it's everywhere in football.london website. It's all in his profile as well. So go on there, follow, and keep the notifications on, because Adam's always posting some amazing stuff. And as he said, he's got a youngster that he's interviewing very soon. So you might want to keep your eyes peeled out for that. So guys, seriously, thank you heaps for all the support. And until next time, we'll catch you. See ya.